Namaste and good morning, everyone. We are here for our Index seminar series. Vikas Deshpande is here today with us. He lives in Boston, an engineer, but works with several cultural organizations within the Boston area, and also a very passionate student of the Indic world in general and the Ayodhya movement in particular. So Ram Navami just was just celebrated last week, and I thought this was a good topic. Talking about Ayodhya, Ram, in general, civilizational ethos is a ongoing and never-ending topic. So Vikas will present his insights and talk to us about what he has learned so far. Over to you, Vikas.
Thanks, Prasad, and thanks for all of you for joining here. And let me start my I'm going to keep some slides on, but maybe talking not necessarily everything on the slide. It's visible, right, Prasad, for you? So I'm assuming everybody else also.
No, it's all good. All good. Go ahead.
Okay. So the presentation's title or the seminar's title is Reawakening of Ayodhya. 1 second. And rebuilding of civilizational ethos. So first of all, little bit belated, but wishing you all happy Navarsha also, and Ram Navami also. And Ram is so much connected to us for a long time. It's not just for this moment, but it's part and parcel of our life and generations for all the time. So when we talk about Ram, we call it Maryada Purushottam. So I just thought to start to remind us ourselves what Ram was. So at the beginning of Balakanda, these are the very first 4 shlokas. They're very interesting. I didn't intentionally write anything in as a translation. So what it says is that initially Valmiki asked Narad that tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidambaram naradam pariprapachya Valmikir muni pungagvam. And what he asked is that all these are different qualities. And is there any person or is there any man or purush who is having all these qualities? So what are those qualities? So konvan smin sampratam loke gudavankaschya viryavan dharmadnyascha krutadnyascha satya vakyo dudavratah charitrene cha ko yuktaha, meaning he's dharmadnya, krutadnya, satya, valor, then charitrena, good charitra, cha yuktah, sarvabhuteshu kohitaha, looks for everybody's good, vidvanka samarthascha kaschek priyadarshanaha, atmavanko jitak krodho, who has even won the krodh, dyutimanko anusuyakaha, kasya bibhyati devascha, even God are afraid of him, jata roshasya sanyoge. And then there are all initial stanzas or shlokas where Narad Muni explain there is no other person but Shri Ram. So that is the beginning, and that is what Ram is, and that's why he became part and parcel of our culture. So I'm going to fast forward, and we are not here. I'm not here going to tell about the Ram story as such. All of us know very well. But there are certain things. Let me make clear also that I wrote one article also. So I pick and choose certain things from my own article also. So these are not something I'm taking from somebody else, but on all my own thoughts. So there is a very good quotation by Leo Tolstoy that it says that the 2 most powerful warriors are patience and time. When we talk about Ayodhya movement and what happened since the beginning of this movement, and I'm not talking last 30 years, but last 500 years, these 2 words are really catching up everything. We showed patience and we showed time also. We waited also. So here is a broad timeline. I mean, all of us know generally speaking, but I thought to just remind ourselves. So in 1528, that was like a dark year for Ayodhya. Babur rule started, demolition of Ram temple and many other temples in the vicinity happened. One thing which we many times don't know, it's clearly written in Babarnama, and it's available online also easily. I will be happy to share if you want this particular page, but there was a major mass killing of Hindus upon order in that era, under the pretext of holy war or jihad against Chanderi fort in the same area. So all these things happened to threaten and terrorize local people. And the idea was that it will never ever resurrect. It will always remain subdued. It didn't happen though like that. The first claim came from Marathas in 1751 to claim that space again for temple. And with some changes, with some success and failures, it did go ahead. Then it comes to Nihanga Sikhs in 1858. That they demanded the same thing. It's interesting to remember that 1857 was War of Independence, as we say, and there were obviously different. It happened by two different religion-based soldiers. So it happened, and they tried to reclaim again around the same time the temple. Then the first legal claim came in 1885 in British era, followed by, I'm not going to explain everything. Then 1949, as we know that there was a Ram Lalla idols appeared in post-independent, immediately after post-independence. Then there was a legal suit between 1950 and 1959. And then it goes from lock open to Ratha Yatra to a follow-up disputed structure. And then the key part was ASI's excavation and Allahabad High Court hearing. So ASI excavation was very critical, followed by Supreme Court historic judgment in 2019. And rest is now definitely history, and that is Prana Pratishtha Shri Ram Lalla in 2024. So when we talk about it, or when we ourselves also, within ourselves also, or outside, many times it feels that, oh, why we do this thing, what happened? And so it is very interesting to know how other cultures and societies reacted for similar atrocities. It's not something, unfortunately, unique anywhere. Wherever there is humanity, there are all good and evil people. So it happens everywhere. So I'm precisely choosing 3 examples to share with you. So first is about mosque in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was built in 18th century during Ottoman era. The mosque in Foča endured significant damage during Bosnian War in 1990s. Many of you might be recalling that war. It was really horrible war happened probably after Vietnam or even World War II from atrocities perspective. Then today restoration efforts are underway and to develop that mosque again. So that is something again happening, and nobody's saying that why to do like that. Then there is a Church of Holy Sepulchre, Jerusalem. This church is because of the unstable history and constantly having different things happening in that particular space. It's very interesting. This church is like a faith of crucifixion place of Jesus and also his burial site. So naturally, Christians have a lot more faith in that. But unfortunately, that always got under attack. The site was basically attacked several times. There were earthquakes also, invasions also, right from Roman emperor to later after 6th century, when that whole conflict became between 3 different faiths, Abrahamic faiths. That being said, it was reconstructed 5 times So all the time they tried to reconstruct it again. And now the latest project is again going on since 2017. So it's nothing new. So these are two examples where you can see specifically about one religion attacking another religion. But it's not only between religions. So that's what the next slide tells. And this is during communist era, USSR time in Moscow. Basically, Cathedral of Christ, the Savior. It's a historic church since that was there for a long time. And it was a monument to victory over Napoleon's army. So it was also actually not only religious church, if you think of it, but it was like a victory over a foreign attack that was built as a memory. Still, communists in 1931 demolished it. And why? To make it Stalin's palace. It never happened. I mean, we hear many times stories about communist era that the government was not working the way it was assumed outside the communist rule. So it was classic thing that even Stalin's palace was never built and there was only swimming pool in that area. But after communism fell in 1991, the first thing what happened was it was started rebuilt and then it was completed in 1999 to make the exact replica of the original cathedral. So what happens in all these things? If you think about all these three different examples, and also if you think about what happened in 9/11, which I didn't included here, but if you think about 9/11, 9/11 was another thing which was like an attack. It was not even attack on any religious site, but it was definitely attack on the national monument per se and the live monument of the United States, and for no reason. No reason meaning, yes, you can talk about political reasons and everything, but those are not justification to kill anybody, right? So that was the whole issue, but still it happened. And it was a shock to everyone in the US and as we know, even globally also. Surprisingly, globally, we can say it was many times in many places, people felt more than what probably they have suffered themselves within their own countries or in their own communities, more for America. But nothing wrong in that or nothing right in that. But that tells that how much there was impact of that whole 9/11 episode. That being said, again, if you see, not forget in the sense, I'm not talking about the war part or the analysis of post 9/11, each and every steps, but only we are talking from the perspective of Ram Temple right now. What happened that they rebuilt again World Trade Center, a big monument, and a monument that also includes what has happened in the past or on the 9/11 particularly. There is a museum. So to make sure that the memories are not faded and people are aware that this was the case, that doesn't undermine any other community, that doesn't undermine anything, but it tells the history of that place and what happened to 3,000 plus innocent lives on that particular day. And because of that, many thousand lives afterwards worldwide, because of all correct, incorrect wars and attacks. So when we are talking all this thing, this is not to justify, let me make it very clear. So it is okay to about Ram Janmabhoomi or having Ram temple. It's not a case like that, or to if they do, then we do. No, I'm not talking that thing. What we did, we had to see from our own perspective, and how we did that also we had to see from our own perspective. I mean, think about it this way: that how many, what was the situation for 1,000 years that India or Bharat has gone through, particularly as a civilization. we always talk about attacks and invasions, and that is definitely the main thing. But apart from the physical invasion, we also went through a lot of intellectual invasions. We lost our history, and it can be debated why we lost, if we were recording it, if we are not, all these things are there. But the bottom line is that we were misled for a long time, and that definitely had a major impact on our psyche as a society, and also on our what we can do and what is right and wrong. Everything, rather than looking from our own perspective, we started looking from, as typical Indian phrase goes, in Marathi it called "Loka काय म्हणतील," or generally speaking, what people will say about us. So that fear, it was an international fear. Sometimes it was some other fear. So it was going on that, oh no, what will UN say? What will other people say? We don't need to feel anything. And that was a major lesson that this whole movement has taught us, particularly our generation, who partially saw what happened in last 20, 30 years, and partially we experienced it either directly or indirectly wherever we are about its reactions. So the way culture, society, and memory behaves, it is my own opinion. I mean, it takes decades to develop and maybe equal time to dissipate a pop culture. We typically we live all these things at a time. That's what my point is. So there is a pop culture that we live, which is partially right from fashion. I mean, sometimes there will be bell bottom, sometimes there will be jeans or whatever. And then again that will come. So that's a pop culture. I'm simplifying it, but I hope you got my point. Then it comes to the centuries that develop history. And that history is developed of the society and the region. That takes centuries. It's not something overnight history gets built up. At the same time, we are also part of making history. And we should be part of making history. I mean, I remember suddenly at this moment, I was not planning, but Savarkar used to say all the time that either you read history or you make history. So we are making history. On that line, he has one quotation. So I'm just making it in English. But then it takes a millennia to develop lasting culture. It's not something easy to develop culture that is like a lasting, that includes, it can have faith or types of faith. It can have types of a lot of different lifestyles, philosophies, everything. It's not just one thing. And it is integrating at the same time, independent within that own commonality. So those are the roots that the memory of individual families and societies. Those are very deep roots in our mind. It doesn't matter. I mean, there is a nice phrase, which might be now even, what to say, like a scientific phrase. I remember one time reading in one of the English novel, forgot, probably Congo, if I remember correctly, Michael Crichton, that they call it genetic memory that monkey had. So it's like it is becoming part like a genetic memory. And that genetic memory, because of that, we don't, many times we don't realize what we do, but we do it in that more or less that fashion. And that's why it is not easy to eliminate it or destroy it, because it is really, really deeply within our own system. And that is the story the world learned during Second World War. And even bigger story that is now hiding behind the entire Ram Mandir movement. The reason I brought Second World War, because I mean, we know what happened in Holocaust. That is also one of the oldest generation, culture, Jewish culture. They tried to basically eliminate it. It didn't work. And it thrived in its own way. And again, we are not talking here politics or anything. We are just talking about what exactly the situation was and how it was tried to destroy it and how it didn't work. Because there are different reasons, and those reasons we need to understand. And one of the key reason is that the cultures are too lasting. And the more we accept that part, rather than dependent only on the pop culture, it can be pop culture of just fashion, or it can be pop culture of even communism that didn't last more than 70 years in Russia also. That something will give us more idea about what is important in our life and what need to be followed up. And that is the key part. So there are a few observations I would like to make on Ram Janmabhoomi movement. One is the resilient society. I mean, it may appear that as if people, I mean, if somebody was living in say 1600th century, 1600s, they may think that okay, it's gone cause, but it didn't happen. And then, as if you recall the timeline I showed from 1528 to 2024, it was just going on and on and on. It was never ever forgotten. And interestingly, it is the same thing in some of the key temples, but we are not talking about that part. And it's not a question of temples; it is a question of attacking somebody's ethos, somebody's uh, culture, and assuming. So that doesn't get people don't forget it. Uh, Depending upon where we are and how we grew up, or all these things, we individually can have different flavors of that feeling. But there is a strong feeling that it is mine and we want to survive it, make it survive. So that is what the case is. So by and large, if you think about it, this movement was peaceful and pursued as a legal battle. As I said that earlier, that we have genetic memory, millennia old, or what to say, our religion or philosophy and culture. It's not something we did all the time, the entire society. Yes, there must be some wars, there must be some fights and everything, but by and large, it was constantly tried to uh, regain by movement rather than just war. So that's the way I'm making a differentiation between the word peaceful and anything else. Now coming to the reactionary part. I mean, since 1990, we have seen some reactions, very strong reaction, but that appeared only when, think about it this way, that the legal fight, even in the post independence, was going on before 1990s. So what happened in 1990 was purely a major concern about how it is going to impact the national integration and the social integration within the nation, because of the way politics is getting played for all different kinds of their own survival of power. So that was the concern. It can be Shahabano case, or it can be any other things also, and that something we had to remember. Sorry, 1 second. So there is one nice what we call Manaje Shlok in Marathi. I just put it here. I will try to translate it also. Manaje Shlok by Samartha Ramdas, who said, who used those partially to praise Ram, and partially, all the shlokas, not partially, but all the shlokas are for our own mind, to remind how to behave. It's very nice way to get our own counseling. So it said that Sada Sarvada Deva Sannidha Ahe, Krupalupane Alpadharishta Pahe, Sukhananda Ananda Kaivalya Dani, Nupekshikada Ramadasa Bhimani. What it means is that God is always near you, he says, but he always try to find your little guts and daring about whatever situation you are facing. And then he is proud of you. He doesn't expect anything from you, but only he expects your daring and standing for the cause. That is what it says. So Again, what we talk about Rama's, Sri Ram's, all different characters. I mean, if we think from very as a layperson's perspective, my own perspective, I feel that he is like a person who showed patience of 14 years to gain his crown. He also showed his leadership to garner support to attack Ravana. Again, there is one nice four-liners in Marathi. I will say that thing and then I will explain it also for those who may not get it. It says that Ramayana वाचुनिया नंतर बोध कोणता घ्यावा आपण Rama सारखा मिळता नायक वानर सुद्धा मारती रावण. So basically what we learn from Ramayana is that if there is a hero like Ram, then even Vanar also come together and they are also empowered to defeat the mighty Ravana. So that is what it means. So that was the leadership that Rama shows. Rama is again who didn't use his power to expand his kingdom. Interestingly, Ram didn't do anything to like Ayodhya become name of the entire southern India or up to Sri Lanka. It didn't happen like that. He coronated Vibhishana and that becomes still independent country, obviously a friendly country, but no, not more than that. So despite having being himself as a gift from heaven, we call him Avatar, right? Sri Vishnu's Avatar. He still always has his feet on the ground. He never ever, he was human being throughout his life and he lived like a human. But while having been human being also, he showed his whatever the characters that any human can possess. So that is what is expected as devotees from us. The same path and a show of Alpadharishta or the some guts, some daring when society is trying to regain the last glory. And that is what this whole story is about. So this whole event, I'm just quoting myself only right now here, that this whole event of moment, when I thought about it, it transcends mere like a mere physical construction. It marks the reawakening of the civilization that for millennia had championed an inclusivity and diversity before these words even found their place in dictionaries. I mean, think about it, that everybody was involved, and even after the settlement, it's not something, there is a chest thumping also. There is no only we will get something. No, the other party, mosque is also getting built, even for on a double the size of the land area. No complaint, and everything is happening happily. We have to always remember that part. It signifies a civilization that refuses to erase its history, and acknowledging both the light and the shadow, but ultimately choosing path of reconciliation and harmony. So we heard this word, truth and reconciliation, during Mandela, when Mandela became president of South Africa. He created Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We don't need commission, because commission is one thing. I mean, I'm not against commission, but more than commission, again, it comes to our culture and character. That if the truth gets its way, everything will work out. And that is what has happened in this particular story. When truth was not getting acceptance, I mean, was there any really Ram? Oh, was there any mandir? Actually, no, it was a mosque. No, Babar was good person or whatever. Or all these kinds of wrong, obviously looking wrong things or hurting people's sentiment things were going on. There was sort of disturbance. But the moment everything was clear, there was no disturbance. There was simply reconciliation. So truth always brings reconciliation. And that is what something we have to, and harmony also. That is what this whole lesson tells us. And if you think of it, lead by example. Shri Ram means lead by example. What I mean by that, I'm talking from the movement side. I'm not talking as an individual for anyone. That Shri Janmabhoomi movement stands like a beacon of hope, not just for India, but for any nation or community grappling with the legacy of complex past. And all countries, everywhere you can go, wherever there is humanity, there is a complexity. So nothing surprising in that. But it demonstrates that through peaceful pursuit of justice and understanding, even the deepest wounds can heal, paving the way for a future where cultural heritage is not lost, but reclaimed and shared with the world. It's very interesting to see that I'm assuming, if not all, but most of you have seen live or afterwards by reading or on some YouTube updates, how the whole Ram Ayodhya Prana Pratishtha happened, Sri Ram Prana Pratishtha happened, and whoever there present. It was surprising to see. I mean, there were always complaints from some corner, oh, why this actress was invited, or why this industrialist was there, or what they had to do. They spoke something and then dig their social media and all this thing. But think about it, that we not only regained in the whole thing or reclaimed our temple, but we are reclaiming people's psyche also that was going in wrong direction. So that is in a way major success of this story. I'm not expecting that anybody will go and every day do Ram Bhajan or anything. But if a common man understands that yes, this is something I will, it was mine, and yes, I was confused initially, uh, but nothing to be confused about. This is not against anybody else, but purely to awaken myself, this whole movement, not just Ram. We gain a lot. And that's something that particular day's crowd showed that it can happen. It's not just crowd that was present physically at Ayodhya, but it was also the crowd that was watching that thing worldwide, no matter what was the time of for them of the day or night, but they watched live. So that is something we have to remember. And finally, going forward, transfer our win. Ultimately, this is success. So let's go home and relax. Of course, we will do that thing. We have to do that part also. But we have to remember one thing, that it's something, as I said earlier, that culture takes millennium. It doesn't happen by one person, but it happens by everybody's action, every generation's actions. So what are the actions we need to take as our generation? So transfer our memories and culture to the next generation. That is the major thing we need to do. Particularly, this is a challenging time right now for everybody. Or at least that is what we think. Maybe our past generations also thought the same thing, but they did what the best they could do for our generation, and we have to do the same for the next. So practicing at individual, family, and social level, our culture, our memories, that is very important. Another part is recording history factually. I'm not talking just to glorify, but factually, it helps a lot. And good news is our history is not bad. So it's okay, even if there are mistakes or even if something to be criticized, let's do that thing. But overall, we have to stand and we have to talk our factual history and bring it not only to the world, but even our next generation. That is most important. Using modern language, that is also equally important. I mean, yes, we have oral history culture, and I'm not suggesting to eliminate it. I'm not going to not defend it because it is in the past, oral history was something wrong. I'm not going to say that thing. But yes, we are the era where we are living. If at all written proofs are going to last long, we have to make sure that all our experts are writing more and more. And if we are not writing, at least we are buying them. That's another part. And reading them, keeping them in our personal library. I'm sure they will pass to the next generation sometime. Nahi jnana sadrosham pravitram ida vidyate. Somebody will obviously get enlightened. So that we have to always remember. And then maintaining assertive yet inclusivity in our practices. That's the last thing. The more we will do that thing, the assertiveness, I'm not talking aggressive, but assertive, the more we are confident. We are already seeing a lot of positive thing in that context worldwide for Indian Hindus in the community, and it will grow even further. So Dhanyawad. I don't know if I finished a little bit early, but hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions right now.
Thank you, Vikas ji. Very good perspective. Just a little bit of history and then perspective on what Ram and Ram Janmabhoomi and the Ayodhya temple is all about. So, if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand in Zoom. It's in the reactions menu at the bottom, or you can type in chat, and I will ask the question on your behalf. So, let me see. So since no hand is raised up, let me ask you one myself. Okay, Ram Mandir is there now. The most important thing is this. There's always this worry of this movements that once the outcome is accomplished, after that it starts to fall apart. Do you have any information on the mandir itself now that it's built? What is going to happen? Events and cultural centers and perhaps even more to promote temple-based economy around Ayodhya.
I don't have full information to say as such, but one thing I can say that that entire area of temple premises is obviously under Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Trust, or if their name is changed now, I don't quickly recall right now. It's top of my head, but they have a lot of plans going on to develop that whole area, as you said about cultural centers and other activities also. The other part is about Ayodhya itself. We have to remember one thing, that it takes time to change the landscape, and UP unfortunately, I didn't go there earlier, but from what I heard, it was not in good shape for many years or decades or maybe century. So that is something we have to that is changing a lot because of Ayodhya temple. The temple economy is definitely booming. So a lot of hotels, restaurants, all these things are also coming. It is becoming like a religious tourism. It is also expected that it will help in other places, and that in fact anecdotal data or information that I heard from some of my friends who recently visited even Varanasi. Varanasi is not that far from Ayodhya, and naturally what happens that people who are going to Ayodhya, they also started to go into Varanasi. Varanasi anyway, right now the temple is new and it is really good, but and it has its own devotees crowd, but that number is also increasing. And that helps, to be very honest, that all these things, I mean, there are numbers, if you go to how much money or sorry, there is no other word, but money or the funds that gets generated from say Rome or say Makkah, Medina, but because our own cultural and religious places were not in good shape, they were not attracting to many other people. Because our cultural and religious places were not properly branded in modern terminology, they were not getting attracted, and those things are changing big time. Just one point I will make, and that is very interesting point I recently heard. There was a challenge of getting funds to develop Ram Temple, and people donated in Bharat, particularly because they took long time to get their foreign currency registration or whatever they call from government of India. But from within Bharat also, they got so much money from right from the common man to richest person in the world. Everybody was giving money donation like nothing. Plus company like L&T, who was engineering and project management company, they did everything free of charge. So a lot of that way also indirect in-kind donation happen. So in all these things, interestingly, the entire temple was built with the funds raised. They use only 17%, and listen, this is not complete sentence. They use only 17% of the interest that are collected from the funds. So just imagine how much funds were there and how much diligently they used it. So a lot of things are going to happen, and that is going to help.
Excellent. So question from Madhura ji. She's saying you suggested that we have to pass on this collective memories to our next generation. How do we go about doing that? Because next generation is sort of more atheist and very careless about all these cultural events. So how do you get them engaged?
First of all, one of the good old practice, and it doesn't have to happen exactly like that, but table talks, small table talks, having lunch or dinner, not lunch, but at least dinner together, if not every day, at least few days a week. If we have dinner together, have some casual conversation, not lecturing, but bringing these topics that will create interest. We have to remember one thing, that with generation change, their styles also change. We don't need to blame them, but we bring them in very much that will create some interest in them about those topics. If we tell them only as purely in a religious perspective, in current scenario, ultimately, if they are, say, school-going kids, they're about hardly 8-10 hours when they are awake. They may be with us, that too in the evening or early morning. Otherwise, they're outside. Their college or young profession. So there are a lot more influences from outside. So we have to acknowledge that thing, and rather than complaining, we have to offset that with equally nice, friendly, and something to make it interesting. And a lot of things happen. There are a lot of different creative ideas that popped up from many organizations. I know from HSS in US that has done Hindu Swayamsevak Sangha, then Chinmay Mission, all these different organizations and a lot of temples have done this thing. So it's not something it won't happen, but at individual level, if you ask me, there are all different ways you can create. I mean, if particularly I'm Marathi, and in Maharashtra, Geet Ramayana is very common. So my daughter knows Geet Ramayana very well. And that also gives all these, it's like a slowly and steadily, constantly get that idea that who they are. And that is what is important.
Excellent. Samir ji, please go ahead.
Okay, Vikas ji, this reawakening and this enthusiasm, how do you see it getting translated into the Andolan for Gyanvapi Mandir and Krishna Janmabhoomi?
So Gyanvapi, I can tell you these, I mean, should we use the word Andolan or not? That's a very interesting part now, because there is one famous quote by Swami Vivekananda, and again, I will simplify it, that any new idea needs to go through 3 phases. One is sheer indifference, severe opposition, and then come broad acceptance. I think to reclaim our historic places that have lost because of invasion, that has already got broad acceptance. So I don't think the Andolan, the way we had to do for Ram Janmabhoomi, will have to be done for Kashi Vishweshwar or for Mathura, Gyanvapi or anything else, because that is one thing. The other part is what I was mentioning about the truth part. The truth part is coming now easily. Even courts are giving permission to do ASI, to do excavation or their own survey. And interestingly, even if you see, the Muslim community also is not something, obviously they have their own concern. I'm not talking that they cannot have or anything like that, but they also respect ASI and the way things happen. So things will move in a little bit different way. Each of this case will be solved. That's what my faith is. but in the system and in our people. But it will not be exactly the way we did it for Andolan in Ram Janmabhoomi. And I would suggest one thing, recommend that even current book on by Gyanvapi by Waiting for Shiva by Vikram Sampath is pretty good. If you happen to get, please read it. I saw one hand raised, Bharati ji.
Bharati ji, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself and then ask a question, please.
By mistake, hand is up probably.
Yeah, no, yeah, so she's unable to raise her. Unmute herself. Okay, we have Rajeshwari Godbole. Rajeshwari ji, please go ahead.
Namaste. Namaste, Vikas ji. Thank you for that presentation. This is very, very nice. I had a question about the Western, what we are seeing, especially in the news media about Ram Janmabhoomi, the kind of reporting which was very biased and skewed, and gives a very wrong impression to not just Americans, but our young people, our people as well. What are your thoughts on that? And how do we counter that? How do we bring out the truth, like you said? Thank you.
Thank you, Rajeshwari ji. Yes, there are a lot of bad publicity or bad coverage, I would say, by most of the so-called or quote-unquote mainstream media or the big names. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm going to say a few things in two different ways. One is one may think like a either overconfidence or sarcasm, but it is not. Let me make it clear. Unfortunately, it's not. There is no easy solution to convince New Times or Time Magazine or Economist to change their course. At the same time, the good news is, and this is what I meant to say, that not sarcasm or overconfidence. Nowadays, not everybody goes and read all these news media. There are very limited, relatively limited audience. If at all, so I'm not worried too much, to be very honest. Again, it's to our own people or our own generations, next generations, college-going generations who read all these things, and that can have impact, no doubt about that thing. On that, only one thing, we have to have sort of intellectual dialogue, not just because I say so dialogue, or because it is like that. And we have to make sure that they will get more and more information. Particularly, I'm talking our own generation who follow Hinduism or who follow those practices in some shape and form, that they definitely need to work that way. Communication is the only thing. And another part is writing our own experiences, even on a small media outlet, like say Newsbreak, Patch. It doesn't matter. There are a lot of things available. If at all somebody goes to Ayodhya, write that experience. Let it be there. It may not be successful, I mean, now, but it will definitely help down the road. That's another thing.
Excellent. Lakshmi ji, please go ahead.
Namaste. Vikas ji, I was actually planning to ask the same question about the narration control. So is there any way we can positively, proactively write the real history and the reality of how it was and why it was? And even though we were in power in the democracy and had the power to kind of just go and take over, but we still went through the legal process and we did everything in a dharmic way, which can be highlighted. And a lot of people, if we start writing about it, because anytime there is a Google search or anything, we cannot just, like downsize the effect of it. The narration control is very important, because many times, even if you say something, they go and do their own search, and anytime the searches comes totally opposite of what you have told, then the kids will be confused, and our own kids are confused. Imagine everybody else,
Narration or sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. Narration or narrative, these are critical points nowadays. We cannot ignore them, particularly the way they get used or overused against anything that is Hindu, quote unquote, related or interest. Particularly in the US, we see most whoever is, I don't know if everybody is from the US right now on this call, but we definitely see in US the way it can be dealt in Bharat is different, but in the US we had our own set of challenges for sure. I'm not denying that part, but again, if you think of it, if we just keep losing our sleep, and I'm not suggesting you are doing that thing, so don't take me wrong, but I'm talking collectively, because I used to give more importance to New York Times or anything. It really has limited impact nowadays. The major concern, if at all, we need to make sure is addressed, and that is for our next generation, which you also mentioned, Lakshmiji. So because that is something is very important part, they get confused. So couple of things I can say that culturally how can be different. This may not be directly answer to your question, but it will, I think, address it, the point. But I don't know how many years everybody is living in US or outside India, for that matter, but I'm talking specifically about US. If you see people, generations came, say, in 60s, 70s, 80s, and their next generation who was born in here, kids, they had very much limited understanding or anything related to do with Bharat. I'm talking broadly. I'm not talking individual cases, so don't take me wrong. If you see generations came after 90s, slowly and steadily, the more internet and more travel become easy, the more communication become easy. Many times those kids also got more connected with Bharat, with their families also back home of their parents, and also we like it or not, but even all the cultural activities, Bollywood and all other things, and Bharatnatyam and all these different kinds of dances, all these organizations, they also helped a lot. So they have some definitely good seeding of culture happen. Now the thing is that the confusion part, because of all this media, that is in a way addressable as long as we show confidence and we show enjoyment. Particularly during Pran Pratishtha time, I have seen that there was some concern by some groups and everything about, oh, what is this and everything. But the moment it was seen that, okay, so many car rallies are coming, so many temples are excited, even not all temples were confident, all temple trustees I'm talking, for their own concerns, personal reasons, not they were against Ram or anything. And then they realize that no, people are liking it. The moment it is seen that there is a confidence, there is a enjoyment, there is a positivity, things start changing. That's only another thing I would say in addition to communication, table talks or whatever.
That is very true, Vikasji. Also, what happens is success brings more success. So little, we have to start building those little successes. So, we work towards bigger successes. I think, it's about time. I think we have no more questions. Thank you so much, Vikasji, for presenting your perspective on Ram Janmabhoomi in particular and overall cultural differences in general. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. And also all the people who asked questions, very interesting, and we'll take this forward. Have a good day. or a good night. everybody.
Dhanyawad. Namaste.